Mariam, it's great to see you again. Thanks for being here with me.
Thanks for having me.
I have to admit something. You've inspired me in more ways than you can imagine. When we last met, you stated things that were just golden, and they stuck with me ever since. For those who do not know about you, what is the earliest thing or the earliest piece of context that you can share with us to help us know who Mariam is and all that she's accomplished?
So I was born during the collapse of Soviet Union. New independent Armenia was born, and I was also born with the independence, I would say. And also I always had that strong feeling of independence because I was asking my grandfather what are these rubbles, what is this Armenian drums, something is happening, something is changing. And also we call these years dark and cold years because there was no electricity, no gas. But for me, those are years of joy, and those are bright years because it is my childhood. And it was a strong feeling of community, of family, and families supporting each other, neighborhoods. And this shaped me, I would say, in a very good way. First of all, understanding that lack of resources is nothing if we are together, if we're supporting each other. And I would say that since then also, all the injustices that were happening, I was very sensitive towards them, and I was always fighting in my yard also against these things. And I would say since my childhood until this day, there's one line that never changed in me. I studied human rights law, constitutional law, so I'm a lawyer by trade, but I also did social and cultural anthropology for my PhD research, and public health. So everything around humans, about societies, and about how we can create healthy societies where human rights are respected. And now I'm an impact entrepreneur. So I found myself in a space where through entrepreneurship we also can drive change. And all my background consolidates in one space, and it drives me where I'm right now driving through my mission.
Well, let's talk about the mission. In 2020, in the middle of COVID, when everything is locked down, you decide to launch a very important project. It's called SafeU. SafeU being a mobile application and a platform to empower girls and to empower women from violence, to raise awareness on gender-based issues. At a time when there's so much difficulty and challenges, it was as though it was a breath of fresh air to have this application. You've launched it here in Armenia, but also in Georgia and in Iraq, and you will soon actually launch it in Zimbabwe and in Rwanda. And the intention is for the next 8 to 10 years, obviously by addressing the UN development goals, you'll probably have it launched in most countries, hopefully. Tell me a little bit about what are the different issues you still see today? I mean, there are many gender-related issues, but what are the key or the top key issues you see today, and how do you think they should be eradicated?
So inequalities, because we see that starting from families to communities to societies, there is a big disbalance, and the harmony is broken. The physics of society is broken because where women are not able to realize their full potential, to bring the value that they are able to bring for families, for societies. And the biggest issue when it comes to gender inequalities, of course, remains violence against women. That is killing them every day. 137 women are killed by people they should be able to trust and love. And 50,000 women a year are killed, and 600,000 women are abused. And this is a big alarming statistics. This is a public health issue, human rights crisis. And it is an urgent issue that requires urgent solutions. But we see that the things are not changing, and actually after COVID-19, we saw a rise in domestic violence cases. We see that the conflicts, armed conflicts or climate change, they also disproportionately affect women. And this means that we have to consolidate all resources and act today and for future, because if we do this, it is going to be not only beneficial for women and girls, but also for the society, and it will largely contribute to global peace.
Tell me how you make the connection, or how statistically there's a connection between the proportional increase of problems with climate or world conflict and abuse against women.
All researches that are done to understand like what is the situation of gender-based violence after any crisis. It can be a political situation. For example, if we look at Afghanistan, every time when there is this, we see the vulnerable groups, women, children, elderly, are the first ones that are
harmed.
Yes, harmed, and this is we see everywhere in the world, and this means that we have to pay more attention and to create safe places. We create avenues for these women to escape the situations, but also to play their own role in peace building, in fighting against climate change, in creating healthy societies. We don't see these women nowadays playing their role, or if there are, this is a very small percentage. And there are some studies that say for us to achieve gender equality in the world, we will need some 200 years if we go with the same pace.
Hearing that causes me a great sense of frustration. Doesn't it frustrate you?
Well, for human history, maybe that's not too long. I mean, from our perspective, yes, it can be frustrating because we live now and we want change to happen now. But I also understand that for any change, it requires time, but also it requires change makers. And we are the ones who can accelerate the speed of change. So knowing that we have the power, because stories, like history, is not predetermined, and we have our role to play there. And what if new technologies, new ways of how we are approaching the issues and how we find solutions for them can dramatically accelerate the processes for positive change. And that's what I believe in, and that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm not frustrating, because I know that there is a solution and we will find it.
Right. As a change maker, I can't help but think you just recently came back from France. You were selected among the top 3 entrepreneurs of Europe as part of the, I think, Cartier Women's Initiative,
yes.
Where you met also Amal Clooney. You've actually participated in the Youth Leadership or Leaders Initiative. You're recognized by the UN, whether it's UNDP or UNICEF, World Bank, Forbes. I mean, there are different initiatives where they have recognized the work that you do, and obviously you are making a global impact. And I think I just see continuously the hard work that you have for justice and equality, and I really commend you on that. So as a young leader, what are the qualities or the values you feel that a good leader or a mindful leader should have?
The first I would say is know who you are, because you grow with your product, you grow with your team. Every moment brings questions, challenges, success, failure, and you are the agent. You are there with yourself, and you have to be there and be true to yourself, to be present and to pay attention. Like, what is your attention there? What is your focus? And also, what is the time that you spend on it, being a quality time with your team, with the problem that you want to solve, like how much you know about the problem and how far you think it can be solved. As Marie Curie said, it's not time for us anymore to fear anything, because it's time to understand more so that we can fear less. Mm-hmm. So this is like deeply understanding, observe the things, but also staying true to yourself. What is your mission here? We always talk about the sustainable development goals, but there are also inner development goals. Who we are to make decisions? What are the values that we are filtering our decisions, and then we make these decisions? Is it for the good or not? And that's how we translate it also to our technologies that we develop. Are they going to bring positive change to this world or negative? And that comes from our intentions, because the result is going to be the mirror of our intentions and who we are and what we bring with us.
Mariam, you mentioned technology. I can't help but think I have to ask this question. So we know that technology has produced great benefits for humanity. I mean, I look at SafeU, that's a perfect example. But there are many scholars and experts who also say that, it's artificial intelligence, for instance, is an existential threat to humanity. And I always think about Yuval Noah Harari, the author of Homo Sapiens. I think of Mo Gaudat, who used to be the former chief business officer for Google X. They both are now adamantly talking about the dangers of AI and how even AI is bound to exceed and surpass the intelligence of humans. So I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on this.
So I would have maybe 3 points on AI. First is, yes, AI is here to ask us a question about us, who we are here. If some of the things that we do can be replaced and done by AI. Are we machines performing tasks, playing some roles that can easily be played by computers, by AI, or we are more than that? First is this, and it's perfect that the AI is here to ask us these questions, and it's a big, tremendous opportunity for us to grow and understand who we are as a spiritual beings, what are our relations with universe, what are our relations with humans to humans, what is the emotional content, what are our energies. Second, as a lawyer, I would say that AI should be strictly regulated, because anything that asks a question to a human that can influence, and we see that AI is already influencing humans, should be regulated. And it should be tested and understood that it doesn't have any, I mean, if it's publicly available, then first of all, we should understand what is going to be the impact on the humanity, and then release this AI. And the third thing, I would say that who is creating and who is controlling AI, and what is the intention of that AI? What the solution this brings? For example, it's at SafeU, our AI is, the intention of creation of this AI is to understand how we can prevent cases of violence, how we can inform policymakers to have better preventive policies to stop violence, or how we, on individual level, we can make sure that we intervene before the femicide happens. So how we can save lives using AI algorithms. And this is ethical questions and the question of moral, like how we create it, how the AI can be also biased and it cannot be inclusive. So this is the 3 main things, and it's still an ongoing discourse. And I hope that very soon we will have some regulations around AI.
Yeah. And we have the right people to control them.
Yes.
Not get into the wrong hands, right?
Yes.
I want to go a little bit back into your past, just briefly. You, historically, your roots are from Shulaver, from Shushi in Artsakh, Tbilisi, Yerevan. You're also a descendant of the famous doctor and professor Melik Adamyan. I want to particularly for you to talk about one of your role models, and that's your grandfather, Dr. Eduard Baghdasaryan. Tell me why he was so important in your life. This is your mother's father, obviously.
Yes, my mother's father.
So tell me why he was so important to you. What was it that was so special that he helped you with?
I would say his example, the way he was, starting from how he would move his body, even starting from the simple things. I was really very attentive to know who he is. And I remember once I went with him to his hospital, There was a big waiting line in front of one door, and I was like, Grandpa, it's interesting. Who are these people? Whom they are waiting for? And he didn't say anything. He just smiled. And then I realized that it was his door. And then I said, can I stay here because I don't understand what is the interactions like. Well, I was really very small, but I could see that with every single person, he was a professor, he was a rector, he would stand up, especially with those who were from villages. And the way he would never also take money. I mean, for him, to be human to human was the highest value, I would say. And also, every single day when he would come back home, he would sit down and read his books, order new books. Like every single person who would call him and ask, what do you need from, I'm coming from US or from Russia or from France, he would always ask for books. And I would sit next to him and read that. That's why I was in a hurry to learn all letters. I learned them when I was, I think, 4, and he taught me letters so that I can sit next to him and read. Because for me, it was like a window to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also remember you mentioning how during those difficult years of the wartime, it was the collapse of the Soviet Union, no electricity, no heating, that even your parents, because you come from a line of doctors and physicians, and you recall always seeing how giving your family was, and even if you did not have all the financial means, there was always this idea of serving others unconditionally. And I can't help but see the parallel between what you saw, socially from your family, the giving, the serving, and what you're doing now as well with SafeU, with your projects, with your research. So, I see that connection. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I just had to mention that. I want to be able to finish off with a particular question, and that's mostly about Armenia. You have a very strong connection with Armenia. I mean, you had the opportunity to work and live and study abroad. I mean, whether it was France or Switzerland, you had many opportunities, yet you always wanted to make sure your anchor was in Armenia, that you remained here, that you raised your family here. So obviously you have a very strong connection to the motherland and want to encourage others to have that sense as well. But when I look at the government, for instance, out of the 13 ministers, 2 are only women. So I know, for instance, women are not well represented even at the government level, on any level. I mean, decision-making in government or any kind of policy-making positions or even in corporations. You have a daughter, Sophia. How do you see her future in Armenia? And how do you see the future for other young children in our generation even?
So first of all, I would like to say that we're in the process of transition. And yes, this balance that we now see in our government, like theoretically, let's say that the failures that we had also are maybe because we were not fully represented. We were not playing our own role for our future, I mean, women. And of course, this is not going to be the same for my daughter, because there is our generation of independence, let's say. We know what we want, and we are here to be the leaders of change. And sometimes you don't need to be part of government, not yet, to influence the change, to help the government. Doesn't matter who is at the power, but to be there. And there are ways of advocating for change. There are ways of influencing systemic change. And if you're here, you're focused with your team is working, you are creating more jobs. For example, 2 of my team members are repats. My husband is a repat. And I'm very proud of this, that we're having more and more people coming back to Armenia with their potential, with their knowledge, with their skills, with their commitment to do something, to change something. And that's like every day we're changing. It's a small steps, sometimes invisible, but at one point, of course, the change is going to be here, and we're going to be fully represented and leading country by the vision that we have. that I strongly believe, and I know that it's going to be that way, I'm sure. For my daughter, for her, and for the future generations, I would say, especially I would say to my daughter, let's say, to never lose her curiosity. This is something that we have as children, but when we grow up, we lose it. But this is something, because this is the way of knowing the world. And for her to be present also, to have this ability to understand that whatever her decision, this is going to be her future. And I really see her now, she's a 3.5, but she already understands that what is the result, it comes from what was her decision and why she made this decision. And I want her to clearly see how she wants to build her future, who she wants to be, but be the person right now, right here, who is present, who is curious, who is alive with the moment, who knows the joy, who knows the frustration, but who also mindful to balance both sides of life in the present moment.
Ah, Mariam. I see in front of me an incredible woman who has strong beliefs, who knows herself, who has a very strong vision, who is able to manifest whatever she feels she needs to do, and makes that happen. I know that you are an inspiration to many people, and I only encourage you to continue in this journey and it's not just success, it really is the way you are helping make things better. You know, with all the trials and tribulations we face, it's always a breath of fresh air to know that there are people like you always chipping away, trailblazing, really setting the pace of what we need to do, and not look back to just the negative. It's also really having that vision and that hope. So thank you so much for taking this time to be with me. It was a pleasure to sit with you.
Thank you for this wonderful conversation and questions. Thank you.